There's something almost sacred about finding something that belongs to someone else. That moment when you pick up a lost item and realize it contains a piece of someone's life, their identity, their memories, maybe even their security. We've all been there, haven't we? That split second where we make a choice that says something about who we are at our core. Have you ever wondered about the invisible threads that connect us? The ones we can't see, but somehow guide us toward moments that change everything? This is a story about one of those threads, pulled tight across 37 years, bringing together two people who never should have met again. It was an ordinary Tuesday in April when Sarah found the wallet. The kind of spring day that feels like a gentle awakening after a long winter. The sidewalk cafe was bustling with people enjoying the first truly warm day of the year, the sun casting long afternoon shadows across the tables. Sarah had just finished her shift at the hospital, 12 hours on her feet as a nurse in the pediatric ward. She was bone-tired but satisfied in that way that comes from knowing your work matters. She noticed it tucked between the leg of her chair and the brick wall of the cafe. A worn leather wallet, the kind that tells a story of years in someone's back pocket. When she picked it up, the weight of it surprised her. Opening it revealed what would be a nightmare for anyone. Credit cards, identification, and $5,000 in cash. $5,000. The kind of money that could change someone's circumstances entirely. The kind of money that could certainly change hers. The cafe had emptied by then. No one was around to see what she did next. No one would ever know if she just slipped the wallet into her bag and walked away. We all like to believe we do the right thing, don't we? But the truth is, we never really know until we're tested. Sarah studied the driver's license inside. Robert Mitchell, 62 years old, an address across town in one of those upscale neighborhoods she'd driven through but never visited. A successful-looking man with salt and pepper hair and eyes that seemed vaguely familiar in a way she couldn't place. Something about the shape of them. Something that stirred a distant memory she couldn't quite grasp. There's a particular feeling when you stand at a crossroads in life. A humming in your veins. A knowing that whatever you decide in this moment will set something in motion that can't be undone. Sarah felt it as she sat there, the wallet heavy in her hands. Perhaps you felt it too, that weight of choice. She called the number on the business card tucked into one of the pockets. Left a message. Simple, direct. I found your wallet. It's safe. Call me back. Have you ever noticed how the most life-changing conversations often begin with the most mundane words? The man called back within minutes, his voice deep, relieved, grateful. He explained about the cash, meant to purchase a used car for his grandson's 16th birthday. A surprise. Sarah arranged to meet him at a coffee shop the following morning to return it. That night, she couldn't sleep. Something about his name kept tugging at her consciousness. Robert Mitchell. Why did it feel like a half-remembered dream? Sarah had been adopted as an infant, loved completely by parents who had chosen her, who had never made her feel anything but wholly theirs. But like many adopted children, there had always been questions floating at the edges of her life, shadows without form. Who had given her life? Why had they let her go? What parts of herself came from people she'd never known? Morning came with a strange sense of anticipation. The coffee shop was quiet, just opening for the day, when he walked in. Tall, with that same salt and pepper hair from the license photo. A confident stride that faltered slightly when he saw her sitting there. Those eyes, now she could see them clearly. The exact shape and color as the ones that had looked back at her from the mirror every day of her life. There's a recognition that goes beyond reason sometimes, a knowing in your bones, in your blood. She felt it even before he did, the way his expression shifted from gratitude to confusion to dawning realization. He sat down heavily across from her, studied her face with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. When she handed him the wallet, their fingers brushed, and she wondered if he felt it too, that current of connection, that whisper of belonging. His voice shook slightly as he asked her birthday, her full name, where she'd grown up. With each answer, The color drained from his face until he looked like a man who'd seen a ghost, or perhaps become one. The truth emerged slowly between sips of cooling coffee. A young love, a pregnancy. Parents who demanded their teenage son focus on college, on his future, not on becoming a father at 19. A reluctant signature on adoption papers. A lifetime of wondering, of regret, of looking for her in the face of every young woman he passed on the street. It's strange how the biggest moments of our lives often happen in the most ordinary places, isn't it? Between the clatter of coffee cups and the hiss of espresso machines, Sarah found a missing piece of herself. Not in some dramatic revelation, but in the quiet unfurling of truth across a small table in a corner coffee shop. What does forgiveness look like when it's never been asked for? What does connection feel like when it grows from the thinnest thread of chance? There were no easy answers, no rushing into each other's arms like in the movies, just two people, bound by blood but strangers in every other way, sitting across from each other with a wallet between them. $5,000 and 37 years of absence. She learned he had married, had 2 other children, half-siblings she'd never known existed. That he'd built a successful life while always carrying the weight of his greatest regret. That he'd tried to find her years ago, but hit dead ends with closed adoption records. That he'd nearly given up hope. There's something profound about discovering that you've been searched for, that you've been missed by someone who never knew you. It doesn't erase the absence, but it fills some of the empty spaces with something new, something healing. Looking back now, Sarah sometimes wonders about the odds. What if she'd chosen a different cafe that day? What if someone else had found the wallet? What if she'd listened to the voice suggesting the money could solve so many of her own problems? The thread connecting them had been so delicate, so easily broken. I think about connections like these often, the ones that seem too perfect to be coincidence, yet too random to be destiny. Perhaps the universe does conspire to heal old wounds if we're open to the possibility. If we're willing to do the right thing, even when no one is watching. Their relationship grew slowly after that first meeting. Careful coffees that became occasional dinners. Tentative questions that became deeper conversations. He met her adoptive parents, thanked them with tears in his eyes for giving his daughter everything he couldn't. New traditions formed around holidays, around birthdays. Not replacing what had been, but adding to it. Expanding the circle of belonging. The wallet sits in a shadow box on Sarah's mantle now, a reminder of how a single moment of integrity opened a door she never knew existed, how returning something lost led to finding something she hadn't even known she was missing. Perhaps that's the most beautiful part of this story. Not the dramatic revelation or the unlikely coincidence, but what came after. The patient building of connection, the gentle exploration of shared traits and differences, the creation of something new from something that had been broken long ago. We carry so many questions through our lives, don't we? So many spaces where answers should be. Sometimes those answers find us in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes the universe conspires to give us exactly what we need, exactly when we're ready to receive it. All it takes is the courage to do the right thing, the openness to recognize the moment when it arrives, and the willingness to walk through the door that suddenly appears before us, even when we don't know where it might lead.